Hello, everybody. This is the first meeting of the Legislative Committee of the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. Dennis, you want to conduct the election for chairperson?
Are there any other nominations for chair?
I nominated Marilyn Manmano as
Yes,
chair.
I know.
Yeah, but now
oh,
it's
that's
being
right.
recorded.
Because we're recording. Okay.
Right.
There's been a nomination by Luis Castillo Oliveira for chair, Marilyn Mamano, seconded by
Donna,
Morgenstein. Is it right?
Morgan.
not
Morgan-
even close,
No.
Dennis.
Took me a long
Dennis.
time, Dennis. It took me a long time, Dennis, but I got it right eventually.
Okay.
okay.
For my benefit, please say your name so I don't murder it the next time.
Mergen Hagen.
Mergen Hagen, okay.
Mergenhagen.
Mergen Hagen. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So Dennis, are we doing this?
Yes. Are there any, are there no other nominations? Then I suggest that we elect Marilyn Mamano as the chair by unanimous acclamation.
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I am honored to do this. And as Donna said, it's a good opportunity to start us up. And this is, I hope, going to be a long-term thing that many people will participate. But again, I'm happy and honored to start us up again. And with that, I would like to share my screen a minute. If you don't mind, I'm going to share the screen. And I'm going to, participants can now see my screen. Let me get my emails out of the way. Okay, I'm going to put up the document that I sent to everybody about some suggested discussions for tonight's meeting. And again, as I said in my email, this is like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I thought of everything I could possibly think of, and maybe I'm not 100% complete, but these are the things I could think of that we might want to consider bringing forward to the board for action. And if it's okay with everybody, can I just quickly go down this list? I know it's a big list and it appears a little daunting, but would it be okay if I just went down this list to sort of frame the discussion?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Right now, the legislature is in session. They started in, I think it was January 11, and they go till March 11. So and it's in sort of full swing right now. And there are a number of bills being considered in this legislative session that we might want to recommend to the board that we take some action on. And I'm just going to go very quickly. SB 512 is the perennial vacation rental bill. And we'll talk more about that. If you want to talk more about that, I got a lot of information, but I just want to go through the list. Okay, is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
All right, vacation rental. SB 280 is a local ordinance, amends local ordinances, the county amending cities' local ordinances. I'll go through the details later. SB 518 is tree trimming. And SB 224 is smoking, returning the ability of cities to legislate smoking in parks and public places. I also provided to you all a place to go and look at all of these bills. I must say that our state legislature has a remarkably wonderful site plan, especially the Senate. Florida Senate has a remarkably wonderful site where if you go to floridasenate.gov, you can track all of these bills. And it's so simple. You just go to the site, plug in the bill, and they'll tell you everything you ever needed to know about the bill. For instance, they will tell you a short description of the bill. They will tell you the current status of the bill. If you scroll down, further down the page, it will tell you all the committees of reference, who's voting on it, and it will give you all the history of the votes. And then if you go further into the website and you click on analysis, it will tell you the pros and cons for each committee pre and post. And it'll give you a PDF of all of the analysis and what are the pros and cons. So information is out there for us to look at and to dig deep into these bills. if you want to. I have some information about them, but it's a committee decision whether we want to get involved in any of these things. The city commission has actually taken action on a number of bills already working their way through the legislative session. None of the ones that I just talked about, but I'll tell you the ones that the city commission has already taken a position on. They've taken a position on SB 974, which has to do with torts, which means that people can sue the city, and they've opposed that because it imposes large financial penalties on the city. They oppose SB 1300, which is called the removal of the book ban bill, which allows anybody to sue the state of Florida, or school boards actually, to sue school boards to remove books. They're opposed to that. They're opposed to SB 148, which is sometimes called the anti-woke bill, which means you can't teach anything in school that would make anybody uncomfortable because of the discussion of race or sexual orientation. And they oppose 1834, which is a discrimination in healthcare bill, which says something to the effect that, you can't teach anything about LGBTQ people in healthcare provisions. Oh, and the list goes on. They oppose SB 620, which is a business damages bills, which says that if a business can show that its profits were reduced by 15% because of a ordinance passed by the city or the county, they can sue and they can get attorneys' costs, and they can sue for unlimited damages. This is a very dangerous bill. So this is being opposed by the city and just about everybody else on the city and county level. And there's also another one called SB 510, which requires financial reporting, very in-depth financial reporting, as opposed to the sort of, skimmed financial reporting, but only for municipal officials, not for judges, not for county guys, not for state guys. It's like, let's stick it to the municipality, okay? So they're opposed to all of these bills. And if you want, you can listen to the commission's discussion of these bills. I think I gave you I did. I can give you oh no, in the email, I gave you the link to listen to the commission discussion of these bills. And it was very, very spirited and interesting if you're interested in these kinds of things. Now, another big important thing that's happening is the Florida redistricting. All of you are aware, I'm sure, that every 10 years, because of the census, we change the district maps, okay? And not only are the district maps changed, but everybody, 40 races are up for re-election, okay? So we have not seen the district map yet. The district map has not been produced. God knows that that's going to be very controversial. Once the map is produced and everybody sees where they are, then we're going to hold elections for everybody at the state House of Representatives and the state legislature, and actually the the federal legislation. So that's a big thing that's sort of coming down the road. It's like, we got to think about that down the road, but it's not immediately of interest to us because we have not seen the maps yet, okay? There's something to keep in mind. The other thing that's happening, which is much, 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 much more immediate for us, is the Broward County elections of 2022. Now, these district maps have already been changed. The new maps were adapted in January, and filing to run for the newly configured districts is June of this year. So the districts have been established. Some people are in those districts right now as sort of what they were before. They were placeholders. So, it's sort of like a status quo right now. But in 2020, there are a number of very, very important elections for Fort Lauderdale, okay? The first one is District 8. The current holder of District 8 is a guy named Jared Moskowitz. He was appointed by the governor as a placeholder, okay? He just put him in there to hold the place. However, there's going to be an election in 2022. So right now, there are only 2 declared candidates for District 8, which is if you, I'll show you a map later, but it's sort of the western part of Fort Lauderdale, western part, north and southwest, okay? Two people have already filed for that race. One is Robert McKenzie, who is our current District 3 council commissioner, and Bobby DuBose, who was a District 3 commissioner and then became a state representative. And now he's termed out and he's running for this county seat. Okay, so that's a big election that's coming forward in November 2022 for us.
No, he wasn't termed out. He resigned to run for Congress.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. That's why he can't, that's why he's running here, because he was he resigned from his Senate seat. Thank you very much, Dennis, for that correction. Okay, and District 4 is the eastern half of Fort Lauderdale, okay? The current person in that district is Lamar Fisher, okay? Now, Lamar Fisher is actually going to be running for the election of that seat in November of 2022. This is what I'm gathering from all my sources. So Dennis, thank you for correcting me if I've gotten it wrong, but Lamar Fisher is running in November of 2022. As of this moment, nobody is challenging Lamar Fisher, okay? So we got Lamar Fisher on the east side of Fort Lauderdale, and we got McKenzie and DuBose on the west side of Fort Lauderdale. There is
That's our district.
excuse me, that's you. Yeah, that's you, Jack. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then there is another guy called Tory Alston, okay? And he's got a small portion of the southern part of Fort Lauderdale. I think it's more like what's that? What's the southernmost civic association? I think it's not Englewood. Was it Englewood?
Edgewood.
Edgewood. Thank you. He's got Edgewood. And the reason they put Edgewood in with the southern, essentially with Hollywood, is because they are very much involved in the airport issues. So, you know, all the neighborhoods around the airport was sort of put together in one district because they have a commonality of interest. So that little portion on the south belongs to Tory Allison. And I believe he has also got an election. He has not yet signed up to run, but this other woman, Hazel Rogers, has signed up to run. So
No, he's
What's
not
the
going to be up
story?
for, he won't be up for election. He's filling in the two-year term from Commissioner Holness.
okay, so
So
he's not
on the
running.
ballot. He was our District 9, Lauderdale Manors was in District 9, but now we're in District 8.
That's right. You see how complicated this gets? I mean, the districts, the people. So the bottom line is the two important county elections in 2022 are going to be District 4 and District 8. So something we have to think about because that's coming up pretty soon. All right. Now, there's another very important election for us, and that's the Fort Lauderdale election in 2022. Only one seat is up for election. I don't know what the deadline is for the filing for that one, but that's our District 3 election. And right now it's Robert McKenzie who will resign in order to run for the county seat. At this moment, I looked on the list and it didn't seem to be, I looked on the supervisor of election site and there didn't seem to be anybody formally running, signed up to run for that site, but I understand that I think it's Pam. Janet, help me out here. Pam is running for that site, one of the Civic Association
Yes.
presidents?
Dr. Pamela Pittman,
Right. And-
Dr. Pamela Beasley Pittman.
Okay, and
From
anybody else?
Dorsey River Bend.
Is there going to be a special election? Because the charter used to say before they changed it. Now they
Right.
changed the charter and made the election 4 years. But before that, it used to be if the term was more than half over, then the commission appointed somebody. So I don't know if there's going to be, is there going to be a special election? Are you sure of that? Or is it going to be appointed?
I don't know. I don't know,
I'll read
Dennis.
the charter.
Please, I would appreciate
Thank
your
you,
input on
Dennis.
this. Okay, but whether somebody's going to appoint them or there's going to be election, we need to perhaps think about the District 3 seat. Okay, now, the last thing, a couple of things is, of course, all the school, there's numerous people running for school board, and there are numerous people running for judges. And if you recall, in years previous, Michael Albetta used to do an absolutely excellent Meet the Judges in August. And I don't know if he's gonna do it again. Dennis, have you heard anything from Michael? Is
No.
he gonna run that again?
I don't know anything about the judges' races.
All right, but Michael used to take care of that. Michael Albetta used to take care of that. So here's that is my sort of, all the things I could think of, and maybe I didn't think of everything, but these were the things I could think of. Is there anything, is anybody aware of anything else we should be concerned about? Dennis?
Well, she did bring up, there were, I had printed out the backup. I would have forwarded it to you to send to the committee members, but I don't know how many people were affected. We had a big power failure on Sunday, and then my internet didn't work, and I can't do the internet on my phone because I have an eye disease and I'm probably going to have eye surgery, and it's too small for me to do it on my phone. But there's local funding issues too. There's one for Tarpon River for dredging. There's one for stormwater project in Melrose Manors. And Daphne did mention those, but they were in the backup to the city commission.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I did mention in the email that I sent you all, that if you wanted to listen to Daphne Sandoval, she gave the city commission an update, a mid-session update. And I gave you the link and the times in which she spoke. And she did talk about the funding issues. She talked about some of the bills, et cetera, et cetera. So Dennis, thank you for bringing that up.
There's another issue that the commission didn't discuss, but
What's
is
that?
important. It was brought up by Commissioner Muradas a few weeks ago, the condo about since the collapse of the condo in Surfside, there's a bill about condo inspections. Right now, the only counties that inspect buildings is Miami-Dade and Broward County. Well, the legislator is discussing that there would be an inspection program statewide, which a lot of the condos in Fort Lauderdale and Galt Isle oppose it because it's so expensive to do those reports. And I'm on the Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals, and we haven't taken a position on changing the ordinance in Fort Lauderdale, and I mean Broward County, that deals with inspections, because we don't know the cause, and we probably won't know for several years what it was. So right now, our position has been that we didn't want to change the 40-year. We have a 40-year inspection in Broward County. In Dade County, they're considering changing it to 30 years. But right now, since we don't know why that building collapsed, we're of the mind that why change the rules when we don't know what we would be looking for to change the rule. But the state now is probably going to implement it. It passed a committee. I talked to Fred Nesbitt today because he had sent a email to the BORA, the Board of Rules and Appeals, about this issue, and it's passed committee, so it's probably going to come a state law. I don't think there's really anything we can do to stop it. It's probably going to go to the governor.
Dennis, do you have a number on that bill?
No, I don't have a number on it.
Is it a bill, or is it something that they can do in terms of?
No, there's bills on it. There's
Okay.
several bills.
All right. Interesting you bring that up, because at the Infrastructure Task Force Committee, we actually reviewed the report that the committee, the Broward County Committee, had made, and the recommendations. And a lot of those recommendations, as you say, are very far reaching. I mean, they are requiring a lot of additional transparency in terms of the condition report, the 40-year or sometimes 30-year reports. They're affecting the reserve funds of condominiums. So there's a lot of pieces in that bill that God knows how much they would cost or whether they could be done. So I agree with you that there is a lot of unknowns in terms of the price, except for the one thing that I can guarantee you, that it will cost a lot more money. I mean, we're not talking about is it going to cost less money. We're talking about is it going to cost more money for condominium associations to meet these requirements. So
The
It's a
other
problem.
thing is we now have a 40 and then a 10 every subsequent 10. And the trouble with the bill, as our attorney read it, is that a condominium is a condominium is a condominium, and it's not true. So a high rise in the bill is spoken about in the same way that a single story townhouse building is discussed. And they are structurally completely different. We're much closer to a single family home. So part of the problem with the bill, as our council saw it, was their definition of a condominium is not accurately reflective of the variations in condominiums. Condominium is just an ownership definition, and they're assuming that means all condominiums are high rises. Not
Right.
true.
No, that clearly needs to be addressed. I mean, eventually, when these bills run through, you end up getting, amendments to clarify. But I'm glad you brought this up. That was not even on my radar for us to discuss, so I'm going to add that to the list. Dennis?
There's another issue, but I don't know any bill numbers that's came up last year and wasn't passed, but insurance reform, they're talking about that insurers, if your roof is more than 10 years old, they would prorate that. If your roof was damaged in a hurricane, you would not get full value to replace the roof. They would prorate it based on how old it was.
I'm going to put that down, insurance. Have you got any
Yes.
reference for that I can look
No,
at?
I don't have any bill numbers for that.
All right, but I'll look it up. I'll find it. All right, so there's two
Because
things that were not even on,
that's a big concern for everybody.
there were two things that were not even on my list. One is the changes to the 40-year inspection, and one it has to do with insurance. So I'm gonna look at those things and see if I can do some research and get some more information about them. All right, can I make a suggestion? Because we want to keep this meeting down to a reasonable amount of time. There are a number of bills that, and they're the first bills on this list here, the vacation rentals, the local ordinance, the tree trimming and smoking, that are what I would call not the low-hanging fruit, but certainly things that we have been talking about for a number of years. And it might behoove us to recommend to the commission, to the board, that these are items that we should be taking a position on, because now's the time. The time is right. Our next time to speak to the board is on the 28th. Our next meeting, I think, is on the 8th, and the session ends on the 11th. So if we're going to effectively take a position on smoking or tree trimming or vacation rentals, now's the time we got. These are the time sensitive ones that we have to work on right now. So if everybody can indulge me, I would like to give you a little bit more information on those bills and see if you feel that this is something we should bring to the board's attention in terms of support. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, go ahead.
All right.
Definitely.
So the first one I want to bring to your attention is tree trimming. Okay. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Local Voices United, which is a sort of lobbying group of the Florida League of Cities. You might recall that two of our meetings, council meetings, we had Scott Dudley come and speak to us about this initiative of working with local communities on legislative issues. So Local Voices Matters is sort of the lobbying line of the Florida League of Cities. And they are asking people of all communities to weigh in on two bills. One is the regulation of tree cutting, okay? Now, from the wonderful site from the Florida Senate, when you look at the analysis of the bill and you go down and you go down and you go down, and it says, what is this bill about? What does it do? Okay, what does it do? Let me find it.
That's a lot.
State preemption, the present situation. All right, let's go further than that because that'll take us forever. Okay, Florida, right here, local tree trimming, pruning, and removal regulations. Florida counties and municipalities have the home rule power to enact ordinances related to tree removal. These ordinances regulate how private property owners can manage their landscape, yada, 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 yada. But current regulation is very vague. It doesn't say, it doesn't have very many definitions. It preempted the ability of tree cutting and tree trimming to the state. And it said anybody can trim a tree as long as somebody says it's dangerous. And that was a little too open-ended. And so this legislation would tighten up that statute and say it's not just anybody. You can't get your brother-in-law Joe to write a letter and say the tree in the backyard is dying and therefore you could cut it down. In order to cut down a tree, now you have to have an arborist, a licensed arborist who attests after having actually personally seen the tree, have to be on the site and looked at the tree and said, okay, this tree needs to be trimmed. So that's one part of the proposed legislation, which is a good part. It tightens up the criteria for when you can cut down a tree. Okay, and then the other thing it says is that, actually in the words of the legislator, okay, effect of the proposed changes. Documentation means that an on-site assessment performed in accordance with risk tree assessments procedures outlined in some statute, something about some best practices manual. All right, it defines what that means. And the second one, which is even more important, it defines what is a residential property. Heretofore, it just said residential property. That could mean anything. It could mean a townhouse. It could mean a condominium. It could mean a single family home. It was everything, okay? It could mean a mixed use building. But now it will be a very specific definition of residential property, which will mean a single family detached building located, oh, what happened here? No, go away. Okay. Detached building located on a lot actively used for single family residential purposes, and which is either an existing conforming use or a legally recognizable non-conforming use. All right, now why is that important? Because if you didn't specifically tightly describe what is a residential property, then developers who had mixed-use buildings or townhomes or condominiums or rental buildings could start knocking down their trees because they were a residential property. So not only is it tightening up what is the standard for allowing trees to be cut down, is also tightening up that this only applies to single family houses, okay? Which is really where the genesis of this was. They were trying to provide, in their infinite wisdom, relief for homeowners who were told that they couldn't take down certain trees in their backyard because it was against the tree ordinances. So they've tightened up the legislation. The Florida League of Cities is supporting this. The city is supporting this. And I think we might want to bring to the board's attention that this is a good thing, especially in light of the fact that we now have a new landscape ordinance working its way through the city commission, that we might suggest to the board that this is one of the laws, proposed bills that the council should approve. Putting that on the table, okay? That's number one. We could talk about this, but you want to talk about this now, and then I'll go on to the second one. How do you want to do this? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Confused. So a property owner can cut down a tree or they can't?
Well, the property owner can only cut, let me back up. Right now, the state has preempted to itself the ability to regulate the cutting down of trees, okay? When they preempted it, they did not specifically say what was a residential property or what was the standards that you have to use. So now it's still preempted to the state, believe it or not. It's preempted to the state, but now they've tightened up the language and the requirements. So if you want to cut, if you're living in a single family home in, I don't know, Lauderdale Harbors or wherever, one of yours, Harbordale, if you want to cut down a tree, the city can't stop you from cutting down the tree if you can show that it meets these requirements of the state statute. All right, regardless of what the city says, if you can show that you're living on a residential property in a single family home, and you got one of these landscape architects to say that the tree is, dead,
Well,
you can cut it down.
one of the other issues though is now your homeowner's insurance can come and tell you to cut down a tree. They can come and tell you to do anything. And if you don't do it in 30 days, they drop you.
I've heard that.
I have heard of cases where they told people to cut down trees and they gave them 30 days. So,
I have heard that.
you have all this bureaucracy and there are people are going to lose their homeowner's insurance.
I have heard that, Dennis, and that is a complication on the issue. But if I were a homeowner and I had a tree that was overhanging my property and the insurance company told me that if I didn't cut down that tree or trim it, whatever the insurance company told me to do, I would probably do it. And then I'd work it out later with the city. But right now, the only way you can cut down a tree on your property is if you meet these requirements from the state. And it was intended to make it easier for homeowners to cut down the trees, not harder. It was intended to make it easier so that the city couldn't actually come in and say, no, you can't cut down that tree for whatever reason the city would say. So it is a complication, but by and large, by tightening up the definitions and specifying what the criteria is, one could say, I would suggest that this is a better situation than the current situation we're in. My opinion. Again, everybody, looks at this from a different perspective. But since the state already preempted this power to themselves, at least they can try and make it more specific and understandable. And Florida League of Cities is in support, the city's in support, and barring that complication with the insurance companies, if that was not, part of the discussion, I think it would be better to have a more clear and transparent ordinance so that people could understand what they needed to do. My thoughts. We can discuss this more. We can put this out to the board for discussion as well. We don't have to make a decision tonight. We're
I have a
talking right
quick
now.
question, Marilyn.
Sure, Jana.
My question is, wherein they're asking for individuals to hire a certified arborist by the International Society of Arboriculture. And as you know, many people this day and time have small businesses. And there's a lot of tree trimming companies that are out here, and not all of them, I'm sure, are certified arborists. So clarity on the certification of arborists as far as what is, especially for minority tree trimmers, for business owners, what is the stature of becoming a certified arborist when it comes to that? Whether or not we're able to continue to include, because I'm all about inclusion, to include certified arborists, regardless of whether it's a small business, a mom and pop business versus a Fortune 500 company that does arboriculture.
Good question. I have no idea. I have no idea what's involved, other than I can probably guarantee you that it's complicated and expensive.
It's on the
Exactly.
Department of Licensing, DPDR, DP, that where you get licenses for everything. And the state site, it tells you what are the requirements to become a certified arborist.
Have you looked at that, Donna? Is it onerous or is it?
No, it's
No, okay.
education.
Oh,
It's
okay.
education, or in some cases, a test in lieu of education.
Interesting. Okay. So no matter how you look
Uh,
at these things, there's always complications. There's always complications. Anybody else have
There
some
are,
thoughts?
there are complications, as you say, but that is also the same thing that happens when somebody's doing remodeling or doing anything that changes. They're supposed to have something approved by a certified or registered engineer or architect or anything like that. They have all those professions. If somebody has a small business, what they have is that they need to have a relationship with somebody that is certified so they can sign for them. You know, you
Yeah.
have all companies that will have somebody that will do the drawings or sign the drawings for them, that they are certified so that they can do something like that. And the arborist, and in here, if you call somebody to cut a tree, they will usually bring an arborist or bring somebody that will certify the tree to be able to cut it. That's what happens as of now. Unless you don't want to do, you can do it the old-fashioned way. You just cut a tree.
Okay.
So
that's good
Louis,
to
it's
know.
like being a subcontractor and having a general contractor to oversee.
Kinda, yes. Let's say somebody that owns a tree trimming, a gardening business, and they have several clients. If one of those clients needs to cut a tree, then this person will have to have someone to approve the job. He doesn't have to be himself. Obviously, if that happens, if this person is going to charge for his services, and the small business will have to pass the cost.
Mhm.
And that would be uniform for everybody. It's you have a contractor that is building you or changing your windows. They are supposed to have drawings and have them approved, and they have to be signed by somebody that has a certain level of expertise to go to the city to be approved. Okay, and you pay
Okay.
for that service when you pay the contract.
True.
Okay. This is a good discussion on the pros and the cons and the unintended consequences and complications. Again, we don't have to make a decision now. We can think about it and talk about it again at the council board meeting on the 28th. So if everybody's agrees, not to agree one way or the other, but to think about this, can we move on to the next one, which is regulation of smoking in public parks and beaches? Can you see my screen here?
Yes,
Okay.
What are they trying to say? That the government cannot tell people not to smoke, or they can tell people not to smoke?
What the current situation is right now, the state has preempted to itself the regulation of smoking in parks and beaches. Okay, the city can't do anything about it at all. Does everybody remember Laura Konshenko?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
she was very passionate about the issue of smoking in parks, and she and I worked, I think it was maybe even now like 10 years ago, on trying to get the city commission to ban smoking in parks and on the beaches, which of course they couldn't do because the state.
Because the state.
Right, exactly. But what we were able to do is to get the commission, to get the Parks Department to install signs in the parks adjacent to playgrounds saying, please don't smoke. Okay, it wasn't you can't smoke, it was please don't smoke, kids are here. Okay, and that was considered a big victory 10 years ago. But time moves on, and apparently everybody has come around to the idea of perhaps we shouldn't be allowing people to be smoking in parks and beaches. And so now this bill, Senate Bill 224, would allow cities to regulate smoking in parks and in beaches. It will
So
return-
restores local government authority.
That's
Okay,
correct.
I get it.
Which doesn't mean that they will, but it restores their ability to do it if they so choose to go through the process.
This is funny because this is basically what home rule does, and then they're giving it in some places and taking it in another.
That's right. That's
Sorry,
right.
sorry, Dennis. I don't want to say what I want to say because sorry.
Well, yeah, but one of the issues that came up is because, first of all, when this was discussed at the commission meeting, it was several years ago,
Yeah.
but a lot of the tourist industry was against it because of us being a tourist destination. And the other reason that the state pointed out, the only thing that I don't like is that when they put a cigarette out and they leave, the beach is full of cigarette butts. But the
Exactly.
thing is that you know, if Broward say you can't in Fort Lauderdale, but you can in Hollywood, and this is a tourist area. And the other thing is that was brought up even with the voluntarily thing, it has to be posted everywhere. So we're going to have signs all over the beach telling you that you can't smoke, or else it can't be enforced. So that's the other thing. Do we want signs everywhere on the beach that says no
Yes,
smoking, you can't do this,
because
you can't do that?
because
But
it's
then
a,
you
it's
have
a
sign
danger to
pollution
everybody.
everywhere. That's brought up too.
Yeah, you know, everything has a consequence, Dennis, and you have to balance these things. I mean, is it more important to protect
Mhm.
the public health and to keep the butts off the beach? And that requires a sign at every entrance to, you know, Fort Lauderdale Beach or at the entrance to a park. And this doesn't say that this will happen. This simply says that if the
They can do it.
locality wants to take this up and do it in whatever fashion they want to do it, whatever level they want to do it, they now can do it. And so this is, in my opinion, returning to the locality, the ability to regulate their own concerns and their own issues is like, to me, it's always paramount. Anytime you return to the local jurisdiction, the ability to deal with local issues, to me, is very important. I don't know how everybody else feels about that. And it's the substance of the situation. Should we regulate smoking on beaches and parks? And there's the procedural issue of, should we return the ability to decide whether or not to do that to the city? So it's two parts to that. So again, let's think about this. This is something we need to think about and perhaps recommend to the board to take action or not take action. It's possible that our function is simply to provide information to the board. And even if we recommend to the board that we think that the board should approve or disapprove of any of these things, it's up to the board. We just make recommendations and provide information. We agreed on that? Yes.
So
Yes,
Yes, I agree, Marilyn, that it's good to have the ability to self-govern at a local level. And this was so important, especially that was an argument we had years ago in the communities where we have children that are in parks, in public parks, that were picking up cigarette butts and walking around with the cigarette butts in their mouths. And by then it was hepatitis and all the different things that were going on. And that became a health hazard. So we want to also continue that fight.
Excellent. Donna, you had something to add?
well, in the past, during the Laura days, the council did support the limitation of smoking in parks and on the beach. So the council has previously been in favor of this. But to your point, Marilyn, this is
Yeah.
kind of a double whammy.
Mhm.
It's about the beaches and the parks, but it's also about local rule. And I think the fact that this is a double-edged sword here really cries for us to recommend supporting this.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll think about that. That's cool. Okay.
And it says by February 23rd that it'll be considered by the full Senate.
Yeah, right. The time is of the essence here, the guys.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to do anything by tomorrow, that's for sure. And
Right.
we probably will, the next time we can talk to the board is on the 28th. So even if we get to the 28th and we have this discussion and the board decides to go one way or the other, they can take action on the 28th, because even up to the 11th is time for us to have an impact. Once you get past March 11th, then it's a question of if the bill made it to the governor, then the letter goes to the governor saying, please don't do this. Okay, which is not inconsequential. I have seen that a bill gets all the way up to the governor's desk and there's a barrage of people saying, no, don't do it. And sometimes they don't do it. So I've seen that work in the past. But, so Ed, what are you thinking of this? I haven't heard from you on this one.
Well, I'm probably the newest to this organization. So I'm trying to figure out what is the process that they're asking us to do. They say, hey, here's 2 bills. Please take a look at it, review it, and give me a little pros and cons. So we either try to kill it or support it. Is that basically what we're trying to do here?
Well, let me put it this way. When I spoke, and Dennis, you can chime in on this. When I broached to the board that we should reconstitute this committee, I listed kind of a number of things that, you know, we might be involved in. And most of them were providing information and recommendations to the board, because the committee does not act independently. We are sort of advisory to the board. And one of the things that I suggested to the board is that we weigh in on, review, make a recommendation on whether or not to support various bills that are running through the legislative session. As just one of the number of things that we might recommend to the board to take action on. So yes, I think the answer to your, yeah.
Is it more than just go or no go, or we like it and here you add some more pieces in here that makes it better?
Excellent question. And that segues into the next bill, which is vacation rentals. And you're right. We could say, yes, we think you should support this, but you should say the following, you know, changes or additions or concerns. And yes, the answer is yes. So that's a good segue into the vacation rental bill, because the vacation rental bill, which is perennial, it comes up. Let me get that one up here. Hold on just a minute. Vacation rental. This is the Florida League of Cities analysis of SB 512, which is the vacation rental bill. So let's talk about what this does. Okay. So right now, the state preempts the ability to regulate vacation rentals. Okay. The only thing the city of Fort Lauderdale can do, it can establish a registration program. And we've been very, very successful at establishing a program. Whether that has made a difference or not, we can argue. But we've established a registration proposal. But now the state wants to preempt registration to themselves. Okay. So let's look at the pros and cons of this bill, Vacation Rental 512, as stated by the Florida League of Cities. Okay, the bill allows local governments to trigger a license suspension if the owner hasn't properly registered with the city. So the city will still be able to establish its registration regime. Okay, it's still the regime, but it will change whether or not the city has the ability to enforce and charge for that registration. It's a little complicated, and I'm going to give you Portia. You know Portia Williams, who is our code enforcement lady? Everybody knows Portia Williams, right?
I know who she is, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to show you her analysis in a minute, but this is from the Florida League of Cities. And the most important part of this bill is that it establishes the state as being the controller of the advertising campaigns. In other words, the state will be monitoring and controlling how people like Airbnb advertise a rental. So the state will set up some sort of controls and say, you have to show the license number, you have to show yada, 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 and they will control the licensing of the advertising, which in and of itself is not a bad idea, because you can't have every little city deciding how Airbnb is going to advertise a rental, a vacation rental. So that's probably not a bad idea, okay? And even the Florida League of Cities sees that as a positive. So it says, focusing on the positive changes to the bill. We appreciate the additional accountability measures for advertising platforms as it relates to displaying the state license number and local registration number on the Airbnb advertising page, so that when people go to Airbnb, they will see that this is a licensed vacation rental. Okay, which is a good idea. Okay, so that's the good part of the bill. Okay, but the bill also restricts the ability of the local government to limit occupancy. In other words, they still preempt all of the important things, which is how many people can be in the building, how long can you rent it for, who can you rent it to? They are not returning that ability to the city. Okay. The other thing that they're doing is that they're limiting what local governments can charge for their local registration. Right now, Portia Williams, her staff, they register all the vacation rentals and they charge them, you know, $100 for a registration or $150. And they use that money to hire enforcement agents, right? That's the way it works. Now, the state is saying, you can no longer charge whatever you want to charge. The most you can charge is $50. And not only the most you can charge is $50, but they can do multiple licenses under one application for $50. And
Wow.
yeah, and Portia says, wait a minute. I mean, we can barely afford right now to run our enforcement program on the fees. And now if the state comes in and says, you can't charge them a lot of money for these fees, it's going to impact our budget and our ability to be able to hire staff to enforce. So that's a downside of the bill.
They have a powerful lobby.
Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. And so Florida League of Cities, which is very, very savvy in these matters, hasn't taken a position pro or con, but is still actively trying to massage this bill. As what, apropos what you said, Ed, is there something that you can say we approve of this, but not this? And yeah, so Florida League of Cities is doing that. Dennis.
Don't we have requirements like the hardwired alarm and stuff like that? Weren't there requirements for for the Airbnbs that they have a hardwired fire alarm?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah,
They
the answer
probably
is
have
yes.
preempted the whole thing.
The answer is yes, Dennis.
Well, do we still have the ability to do that?
No.
Let me show you Portia's email. Hold on, let me get Portia's email up.
The other thing was, it used to be that the hotels were against the Airbnbs, but now they're in on the action, so they don't oppose it anymore.
I guess you're right, Dennis. There's money, follow the money, and the hotels are getting in on the business too. So don't count on them. This is from Portia. Can you see this email that I have up here? There are two major effects. We will have to take suspension requests to Code Enforcement Board for review and enforcement, as opposed to doing it themselves. It puts it into another category. You have to go to a magistrate. And the city will need to issue a collective license that exceeds a cost of no more than $100. The cap on the cost may affect our monitoring program, and that's the position that's funded based on the recovery model we have in place. My feedback about the position is my own opinion. So there are certain things about this bill that are positives, but there's certain things about the bills that will negatively impact our ability to fund our local registration program. So Ed, your question is there. No, I'm saying your question is the question of the moment. There are some bills that you don't just say we support wholeheartedly or we oppose wholeheartedly. There are some bills where you say, well, you know, there's some good parts here and some bad parts here. We support this, but we don't support that. That's very nuanced. That's very nuanced, and that takes a lot of time and energy and analysis to, you know, fashion that kind of a position. But, you know, Portia's stuff is right here. And we could say certain things about the bill, or we could just say, nothing about the bill other than this particular part here about the licensing is problematic. And we hope that you don't do that, because we have from the city's mouth, from the enforcement person from the city, that this would negatively impact the city's ability to do this. So again,
I'm sure that the state doesn't allow a company that has 150,000 cars to have a registration that is only one versus a person that has only one car. I'm sure that they charge for the amount of vehicles.
that's not the way I read it. It says the city will need to
No, I'm
issue-
talking about that. The state, I'm sure that if you have a fleet of 100 cars, you have to have 100 registrations. not only one.
I don't know the answer to that, Louis, but you know, the cynic in me says, yeah, the state will charge everybody, but they're telling the city, you have to issue a
Yeah.
collective license.
It's not their pocket.
No, it's
Yeah.
not their pocket. Exactly, exactly.
So
Okay, Donna.
there, follow the money.
Yeah.
So one thing is the bill is too Airbnb centric. Airbnb is one of at least 50 vacation rental listings. And if this bill passes, the only focus is on Airbnb. There are people who advertise on Facebook, on Twitter, on their Instagram account. That would fall through the cracks. with
Friends
this.
and family, they don't advertise anywhere. They have friends that already. I know
Yes.
somebody that doesn't even bother in advertising. They just the friends and the people that he knows always keep him busy.
Yeah,
So with this wording, all of those would fall through the cracks. The issue of them falling through the cracks is not only what Portia is saying, but it's also an issue of money. We had a in our neighborhood, and we actually have a covenant that prohibited it, but we had somebody buy a house and start renting it on a nightly basis.
ooh,
They were not paying bed tax because they thought nobody was paying attention and nobody could enforce it. But when we filed a complaint with Portia's or through Portia's office through the city registration system, amazingly enough, when the issue of taxes came up and their history of rental was documented with photographs and license plate numbers and advertisements that we were able to pull from the web, and they faced a tax liability, they decided they weren't going to rent that unit anymore. They sold the house.
excellent.
So Portia's or the city of Fort Lauderdale's registration program works well and saves us all money by collecting taxes from people who are doing business and trying not to pay business taxes.
Excellent. I did not realize
The-
that it was so working so well. Dennis.
The other thing was I had brought up to the council before, there's also rental of swimming pools. There's a website called Swimly where you can list your swimming pool for rent.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's practically the same thing. You have a bunch of people next door having a big pool party, you know, because they rented their swimming pool. One thing we could do, but I don't know how we would find out. I'll bet you a lot of these people that have their homeowners insurance don't know that they're vacation rentals. And if they found out, they would drop them in a minute.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's interesting. And but you know, there's a lot of things that could be done, but we're not going to do it here, and we're certainly not going to do it tonight. The only thing that we can do tonight is to have this discussion about the bills that are currently running their way through the legislative process, and that's
We've always
trees.
taken a position on vacation rentals.
Yeah,
so
we've
it's-
always been against it. We've always been against it. But the current situation is there is a bill 512, okay? And do we recommend to the board that we support it, or that we send letters to the governor and the state legislators saying, you know, there may be some good things here, but on balance, because of the following, we don't support it, or you have to change it before we could support it? I mean, that's our function. And our function is to think about these things, articulate them to the board, and let the board make the decision about whether or not they want to move forward. So
Mhm.
those are the sort of the three biggies: trees, smoking, vacation rentals. There are a number of other bills, and I wanted to bring to your attention those bills that the city council has, the city commission has already opined on. Let me go back to that. And those have to do with equity and discrimination. And I don't know if we want to get involved in those things. I don't know if we want to make any recommendations to the board on those.
I don't.
But they're, okay, I'm just bringing it up. I mean, you know, there are you know, we spent the last year talking about equity, and we spent a lot of time talking about equity and equality and trying to be more aware. And these are very bad bills. The removal of books on its
But
face.
they really weren't discussed by the commission. What the commission did was they sent a resolution opposing them, but there really was no discussion about it.
That's fine, Dennis, but who knows what they're talking about behind the facade there. And I don't think that the fact that they didn't publicly discuss them and just moved the resolution should defer us from at least considering whether or not we should bring these to the attention of the board. Because these bills are very discriminatory and very, in my opinion, they're very discriminatory. And then they set us back in terms of equity and equality. And perhaps everybody should think about this before the board meeting. I can get you all of the language of those bills, and the language is shocking. I could get it for you, and you could like think about it. And when we get to the board on the 28th, you might be in a better position to say to the board, you know, we think that these are bad things. I don't want to say misguided things that we really should not be moving forward on. Is anybody got any
Marilyn.
thoughts on that? Yeah, Don.
Yes, because the commission has already taken a position on that,
Yeah,
I think for the sake of time, we need to pick some low apples like trees, smoking, and vacation rentals, and define a position and recommend that position to the council by the 28th. We can't do everything. I mean, this is 5 days. So take the things that the city has, the commission hasn't taken a position on. And for example, vacation rental is too limiting to only one platform of vacation rentals.
okay.
It costs the potential collection of bed tax, return to local rule, and remove the ceiling or the cap on registration fees.
Okay,
I-
I'm
I
writing
mean,
this down.
I would motion that that would be our response and our recommendation to the council board.
Okay, I can deal with that.
If we could distill just these three, that would be a good platform to get started. I don't think we can do everything.
One,
Because
hear
of
you.
timing, we can't.
I
Because
hear
of
you.
timing, we can't.
All right,
But
Dennis. Yeah, Luis, I'm sorry, Luis, you want to finish on, you want to
yeah,
add?
it's because of the timing, we can't. But we're gonna have this committee already established, and we have to work on the future for things like this that are gonna come up in the middle of the year and stuff like that. Remember that because this is an election year, there will be a lot of electioneering.
Yeah. we're
Okay.
gonna- Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, a big focus of our work coming up. Dennis, you want to add to this?
Yeah, so I'd like to suggest that we add the funding requests because they're no brainers. There's nothing controversial about those. The city would like to have, Commissioner Lamarca has proposed a bill to fund the community court. And there was one for the Tarpon River environmental maintenance dredging and Fort Lauderdale, the Melrose Manor Stormwater Project. And
Yeah,
I can give you the bill numbers. They're no brainers. I think we should add those.
absolutely. I agree with you 100% because the commission is already, Dennis, could you send me those? I mean, I could go
Yes,
back and look, but send them to me.
Yeah, I'll add the numbers, but we can vote on them tonight and then I'll just send it to the bill numbers to Marilyn, if that's okay with everybody, if you all agree.
That's fine.
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I
support
make
the
a
funding
motion that
requests?
we add those, the funding requests, those 4 funding requests. Well, I guess there's 3.
Okay, the funding request, the motion is
For the
to,
community court, the Tarpon River environmental maintenance dredging, and the Melrose Manor Stormwater Project.
oh, I think that's marvelous. I think that puts us right in the sweet spot. Do I have a second?
Yes,
I second.
Okay, all,
Now, Dennis, don't squeeze bills in there that are not the ones, okay?
no, it's the three. This is being recorded. I understand exactly what he's saying. Okay, so,
Even the
everybody,
baby's protesting, even the baby.
I was
everybody,
just getting ready to ask that question. I have a question on
oh,
the
sure,
motion.
darling, yes.
Okay, in regards to the information that you just suggested with the towards the removal of books with the anti-woke bill and the discrimination in healthcare, I know that we do have a limited amount of time within the next 5-day window, so to speak. But I personally would like for us to acknowledge that just as Marilyn stated, if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. And even though the commission have taken positions, we need to make sure that since we are the voice and the representative and the advocates for our constituencies, that we need to be have a consensus regarding these positions, because I know for sure that there needs to be some type of discussion and some type of consensus among us to report back in regards to those subjects, because this is very controversial in our time. And we're seeing a lot of things that have been done for the greater good of race relations that are being undone. So I want to say, and I have to speak for the record, especially as well that it's being recorded, that this is something that we cannot just close our eyes to and expect for it to go away, because it's not.
Thank you, Jana, and I want you to think about making a motion to that effect after we finish this, okay? But right now, we have a motion and a second to support the 3 funding requests that were mentioned at the city commission meeting. Do I have any opposition to that motion?
I did second it already, so.
Yes, I said we have a motion and a second. Dennis made the motion, Luis seconded. Everybody in favor of supporting those things, say aye.
aye.
Aye. All right, Jana, would you like to make a motion
Yes,
about supporting the resolutions that the commission made on February 15th?
Yes, I do make a motion that we support the opposition of these items, and to also have further discussions where we will give input, hopefully by letter, detailing our positions and where we as a consensus come together so that it will be included in backup.
Okay, that's a big resolution. Do I have a second on that big resolution?
I will second that one too.
All right, Luis. So, discussion, can I say something? I would like to say, I agree with that. We should support all of these resolutions by the commission. I don't know how much detail we want to get into in 5 days. Okay, you know, I could write a dissertation on why I think these are bad things, you know.
No, but you can
don't have
just
the
say
time.
that the city has taken a certain position in certain items and that we are behind them.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's it. Basically
I
a blanket one.
that's what I'm suggesting, that given the time constraints, that right now, what we could say, with the most effective thing we could do is to support the commission in their resolutions. I don't know how detailed, you know, you were saying about backup material and other, you know, discussions. Yeah, I
Can't do it.
I don't think we have time. I think it's a good idea, but I just don't think we have time to
Right.
articulate. I mean, I could spend hours articulating why these are bad things, but I don't think we have the time between now and the board meeting. In my opinion. Dennis, what are you thinking?
I'm already under attack. Somebody called Edna and said, oh, they formed the legislative committee of the council and Dennis is involved in it. And what's this all about? And I took the position about, this came about because of the controversy already that we have at the council about the bridge alternative and whether or not we're speaking on behalf of the associations, whether the associations knew about it and all of that. So we still have that controversy going on. These are very controversial bills. The commission made a resolution that was not unanimous by the commission, and I don't think we should take a position without it being discussed. I don't have time to go back. We're not even meeting before the council. So I have a problem with all this. The stuff that I voted on is stuff that I know that the Lauderdale Manors should not think is controversial, but I'm not willing to support things that are without having a discussion with them. And again, the commission never discussed this. They only passed a resolution against the bills. There was no discussion.
I hear what you're saying, Dennis, and I also hear what you're saying about controversy and whether or not we can, we are going to be subject to a number of, to backlash. We probably will be subjected to certain backlash if we do this, but me personally, I think that it's important for us to support the commission in their opposition. And just because I think it's the morally right thing to do, me personally, I think it's the morally right thing to do to oppose.
But you're not at the council to represent yourself.
And
You're there to represent your
absolutely
neighborhood.
true. You're absolutely true. I'm not here to no. I'm not here representing Harbordale. We, the bunch of us here, we were volunteers and we were accepted as the members of this commission to make recommendations to the board. We don't make the decisions. What we do is we say we met, we discussed, we making these recommendations to you, and then it's the board that decides whether or not to oppose these resolutions, support these funding things, support the vacation bills. So it's not like I'm representing Harbordale.
You're supposed to be.
No. But
Not in the committee.
Not in the committee.
in
I
the
don't think
committee.
so.
Who said?
No,
That
I
needs
don't.
to be
because-
discussed. That needs to be discussed by the board because
Yes.
you're not representing yourself at the council. You're representing your neighborhood.
Well, Dennis, I think that's a,
Dennis, let me say something. Then in this case, in this committee, we only have 5 of the neighborhoods. We here are basically digesting something to present to the board and then to making the work for them a little easier and then present it to the whole neighborhood council. Okay, I am not representing South Little River in this. Okay, I don't discuss whatever I'm discussing right now with South Little River. I don't see a reason for that. When I do that is when we are at the meeting, because as of now, then we only have 6 neighborhoods represented, not all of them.
right. So Dennis,
Okay.
you bring up
Think
an
about it.
interesting,
Dennis, if you look at the bylaws, I think this would be considered a working committee. And it does have a different mission than the representative or an alternative to the council.
yeah, Dennis, I think we can actually discuss this at the board meeting and get a read from our secretary and parliamentarian, Christina Curry. She's very good at this. But I tend to agree that the way I read the bylaws, a committee is a working committee. Its sole purpose is not to represent their particular neighborhoods, but to provide input to the board, which represents all of the neighborhoods, not just, I mean,
Exactly.
when I was sitting on the board, I wasn't representing Harbordale, okay? I was a board member who was representing the collective of the council. So I hear what you're saying, and I hear your opposition to taking a position, but we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. I would like to ask people what they feel about it. Can I get a show of hands of people who support?
May I offer an amendment?
You go right ahead, Donna, if Jana will accept it.
Well, let me offer it see if she'll accept it. So based on the constraint of time and the limitations of a working committee's power, I would like to ask her to remove the discussions and meetings and research and presentation component. And just vote on taking a position of support to the commission.
Okay, Jana, will you
To
do
the
that?
commission?
To the
Well-
board, not the commission.
No, to take a represent to the board a position of support of the commission.
Okay, Jana,
I have, in which I want to make sure that, like Dennis, I have to be transparent in what we do. And being transparent in what we do, I need to make sure that, because as Dennis stated, which is more powerful than anything else, that we are the advocates for our various constituents. And for me, it's not just I'm representing Sweeting Estates, River Gardens, because as representative here of District 3 altogether. So that's a lot of weight on my shoulders, knowing how my community will react if I don't do what's in the best interest for the entire community. So
You do know the Commissioner McKinsey did not vote for these.
he was not there,
You know-
Dennis. It's not that
Yes,
he
he
didn't
was
vote.
there.
He
Yes,
walked
he was there.
away. He walked
Yeah, he
out.
walked away, so he didn't have to vote.
Well,
because
he didn't vote.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying he
Yeah,
did not
he
vote.
didn't
He
vote
walked
because
away.
the city attorney said he had to.
That may be, Dennis, but the fact of the matter
But
is
the
when the
fact of
vote
the matter
was
is,
collected,
okay, he did not support it. He did not vote.
I do
So
not know he
That
didn't
speaks for
support it.
itself.
I do not know he didn't support it. And whether or not he particularly supported it, it's not up to him.
Right, but
it's
I'm
a
only
commission.
bringing it up because Ms. Williams brought up about the district.
Right, because see, at the end of the day, I cannot put the monkey on my back and say that this is a decision that I'm making solo on behalf of the entire district. So that's why I said we need to have that discussion, because number one, I would like to be able to have the opportunity to dissect each of these myself this week and send a letter to Maryland. That's what I was going to include, that I personally will send a letter to Maryland and letting you know each position and why we oppose or support one or the other.
Okay, Jana, I'm hearing what you're saying, but please forgive me if I'm a little confused. Because we just had the discussion about the fact that the 5 of us, actually not Dennis, Dennis is ex officio, but nevertheless, he's a good
No, I'm a
voice.
member of the committee. I was
Whatever.
voted on the committee.
Were you? I thought you
Yes.
were.
Yes,
Fine.
he was.
No,
Welcome. You're a member of the committee, the 6 of us, all right? You're not representing Lauderdale Harbors. I'm not representing Harbordale. Jana
Right.
isn't representing Sweeting Estates. We are individual people. The committee, the council, the board, and the council, because it was we were appointed, a committee was established by the board, okay? So, oh, she's so sweet. The board has entrusted the 6 of us, all right, to look at these issues and opine on these issues and pass recommendations on to the board. So I look at this, and I could be wrong, and we could talk about this. Is this the right way to look at it? I don't look at this as my representing of Harbordale. I don't know that everybody in Harbordale would support all these things. Okay, I bet you I got people in Harbordale who think removing books that talk about the history of slavery is a great idea. Unfortunately, I probably have people who think that that's a great idea. Okay, but I'm not representing them here. I'm an individual, a thinking, moral individual who the board has said, you guys get together and think about this and make recommendations to us. So I'm perfectly comfortable as a human person who has looked at this issue and said, this sucks. I think we should support the commission in their opposition to these things. If you don't feel that way, fine. I appreciate that. For whatever reason, you don't feel that way. You don't feel it's morally correct or technically correct or what. I don't impugn anybody's motives on this. I'm just saying that we are 6 individuals who've looked at this and have to, in our own minds, come to is this a good thing or a bad thing? And should we recommend to the council that we think it's a good thing or a bad thing, and let them do whatever they think is best for the organization, all right? So given that, I take it, Janet, that you do not accept the friendly amendment that Donna has put forward, which would be just a straight, we support the commission in their opposition?
Exactly.
Okay. She doesn't accept it, Donna. So the motion
Thank you,
on the.
Thank you, my sister, anyway.
Okay,
But
that's democracy for you. So the motion on the table, is Jana's original motion is that we support the commission in their opposition, but that we accompanying it, you correct me if I'm wrong, Jana, that we accompany it with a, I don't know how detailed, but with a more descriptive analysis of why we support their opposition. Is that correct, Jana?
that is correct.
Okay, and Luis, you seconded that. Luis, come back, Luis. We're almost done.
I did second it, yes,
Okay,
sorry.
all right. So that is the motion on
Okay,
the floor.
I'm live too, even though I have no shirt. Sorry,
I don't know.
It's
You
too hot
better
in
be
here.
careful. All right, Luis.
too hot
let's-
in here.
Let's bring it up here, Luis. Let's bring it up here.
I am.
Okay, that is the motion on the floor.
Can I ask a question before we
Sure.
take a vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Because number one, I was not aware at all of the position of Robert McKenzie, our commissioner. I was informed that he was not there at the dais. So I had no idea that he just took no position at all versus a position.
That is my understanding, Jana. I mean, it's speculation as to whether he's in favor or not in favor because he did not express in favor or not in favor. He simply walked out of the meeting and didn't vote. So I can't tell you whether he was in favor or not in favor. Maybe you know. Do you know if he was in favor or not in favor?
I don't know, and that bothers me because I would be, before I make that official, I don't know if there's any way that I can table that until I find out further before I put this to a final vote tonight.
Okay, well, you are the motion maker. And if you decide,
You could remove the motion.
you
then.
could remove the
can
motion for future
Well, what
action.
I would do is, okay, I will table it for our next meeting.
Okay, I understand. I appreciate that. That's what we will do. Since you made the motion, you can table it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 8:38. I think we have
Pounded the horse.
yes, it's a wonderful meeting. This is heavy duty stuff and it's a pleasure to work with you and
Are we
Well-
gonna meet it? Are we gonna meet again before the session is over?
I
what
was
I'm,
just
well-
gonna ask, are we gonna have a called meeting?
okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to put together, not actually the minutes, but I'm gonna put together what we discussed. We discussed going with the smoking ban. We discussed going with the tree ban with some qualifications perhaps, and the vacation rentals with the qualifications that Donna gave us. And
Yes.
that's all that we have come to a consensus
No,
on
and the
tonight.
other, and the four funding.
Oh, and
items.
I'm sorry, Dennis, and the 4 funding. So I'm gonna put
You
that
want-
together.
Three funding, three
Is it
funding.
3?
Yes, okay.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna put that together tonight,
Yeah,
tomorrow
I'm not
morning.
gonna add anything. I just forgot.
Okay, and I'm gonna send it to everybody to make sure that I got it right. And that's what we will present to the board on the 28th. Okay?
Can I send it to you in the morning? You don't need it
Please.
tonight.
Oh, no,
Okay.
please, the morning's
right.
fine. I'm
And Marilyn,
gonna get a
don't
glass
forget-
of wine. Yes, Donna.
don't forget
Lucky you,
about
I can't.
Portia's letter.
Yeah, Portia's, I'm gonna mention all the things that Portia said in her letter. Okay, so I'll get that out to you so that we're all in agreement that this is what we discussed and you can make any changes you want.
Okay.
And that's what we will talk to the board on the 28th. And then we'll get direction from them. Again, we're their committee. Do they want us to go further? Do they want us to do anything additional? Et cetera, et cetera. Is that a good plan going forward?
That's a good plan.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
working with you.
Thank
Send a
you.
report to
I'll talk to you
I'll send
soon.
a report to you,
Sorry
Miss
about getting
Marilyn.
a phone call from Home Depot that I need to call back to schedule the delivery of the refrigerator tomorrow.
I'll
again.
see you at Sistrunk. I'll see you on Sistrunk Avenue on
Yes,
Saturday.
you'll be there.
I will be there.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
You all
night.
have a blessed night. Thank
You
you.
too.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.